State Capitol now. Governor Katie Hobbs named a new chief of staff today, less than a week after her original choice suddenly resigned.
It is a name you will recognize. He used to be the Democratic leader in the state house. Emma Lockhart's in studio tonight with reaction.
Yeah, Chad Campbell worked with Hobbs in the legislature, and they both represented the same district. One political expert I spoke with says his experience can help Governor Hobbs work with a Republican-controlled legislature.
A familiar face, now the new chief of staff in the Hobbs administration. Chad Campbell spent 8 years in the Arizona House and served as a Democratic leader from 2011 to 2014. He's now leaving his job as a political consultant to step into his new role.
Governor Hobbs has tapped a very capable new chief of staff in Chad Campbell.
Douglas Cole is the CEO of High Ground Public Affairs. He says Campbell's experience in Arizona politics and the legislature makes him a strong pick.
He knows the process. He knows how to negotiate budgets. He knows how to negotiate very complex issues because he's been down there.
This comes after major shakeups in the Hobbs administration. Just last week, Allie Bones, a longtime friend of the governor, stepped down after working together for the last 4 years.
Allie is widely respected in the political community. What she did not have, though, was the legislative experience. Chad brings that.
In a statement, Campbell said in part, "In the many years Governor Hobbs and I have worked together, we've shared a commitment to bipartisan, solutions-oriented leadership."
Both those caucuses are more polemic, i.e. the Republicans are further to the right, more conservative, and the Democratic caucus is further to the left, more progressive. So Chad's got his work cut out for him.
Hobbs is struggling to get the Republican-controlled Senate to confirm a handful of her cabinet appointees. Cole says Campbell could help make headway.
So hopefully the new chief of staff can work with President Warren Peterson, the president of the Senate, and Senator Jake Hoffman, who's head of the Directors Nominations Committee, and move some of these appointments, these confirmations forward.
Now, we are told Campbell starts on Monday. I also reached out to the Arizona GOP for reaction to the new chief of staff announcement, but did not hear back. Nicole?